Hi, Henny, how are you? Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, I'm Teknikolour. I've been trying to build a restaurant in Brindleton Bay for months, and after many attempts, I've finally created something I'd like to share. When I say that I've been working on a restaurant in Brindleton Bay for months, I'm not even exaggerating. I think that I had the idea to build on this lot, Ragdoll Refurb, which is a 20 by 20 lot in the Whiskerman's Wharf neighborhood last summer. It is now January 2026. I just kept bulldozing over and over again. Anything I came up with, I'd like for a bit and honestly get pretty far into it before I'd ultimately abandon it. It wasn't until last month that I was looking through lots that I haven't built on before that I remembered that I love that Anchor Point Abode vacation rental build in San Sequoia, the world that shipped with Growing Together. I'm pretty sure the style of that build is contemporary, but please correct me if I'm wrong. I love the look of the gabled roof and how the eaves extend to line up with the side walls, but the wall part of the roof piece is flush with the front-facing wall. It basically adds a sort of coziness to this more modern-looking build, and I think that's super cool. Previous attempts that I made on this lot were just all over the place. There was one ultra-modern building I'd come up with that had tons of dining space and was basically complete, but I decided to have there be a second floor and a walkout balcony. It was just way too big. To add more dining upstairs would have been ridiculous. And I had set it up in a way that the staircase made it impossible to turn the second floor into a separate space entirely. To top it off, from the very beginning, I had wanted that floor and walkout balcony to be a kind of indoor-outdoor dog park, which is exactly what you would want as part of your restaurant. It would have worked if the restaurant was upstairs, but it was too late by the time I realized that. I wonder if I still have the footage somewhere, or save the lot to my library before I bulldozed. Maybe I could revisit it in the future. What would you do to fix that? I have no idea. Anyway, this build is just a restaurant. Even though that whole dog park restaurant hybrid idea was the driving force behind building on this particular lot. That was so long ago that I don't even remember why I thought that was a good idea to begin with. Actually, I almost ended up bulldozing this attempt too, but I decided to stick with it, and I'm really glad that I did. We almost had that walkout balcony again, but it became a covered patio space instead. I think that works way better for the overall look of this build. For the shape, I knew I wanted it to be straightforward in this style, but with a kind of bump out, with an extra roof piece to have a feature wall. That part is all in that stone brick wall paint that I believe came with Adventure Awaits. And I wanted it to look like this because it's not a chimney, but I was hoping it could mimic the look, especially since in the front of the build, I was going to place a custom fireplace. You can obviously see that the roofing confused me for a bit, and I was a little all over the place when it comes to how I wanted the overall building to look. So I'm surprised that the build didn't take that long to finish. Well, not counting all of the previous attempts. Oh, I just realized this is my first build video of the year. And I didn't really get to update you all on all that you've missed in last week's video. My past 3 build videos were all pre-recorded, so I had them ready to go and scheduled before Christmas. This way, I wouldn't need to do any work while I was spending the week with my family. However, if you didn't catch any of my live streams, you have a lot to be updated on. I think the biggest thing is that exactly 1 week before Christmas Day, I was in the emergency room. I've been dealing with this mysterious pain on my right side, mostly in my back, and we've been through so much trying to figure out what it could be. The time before this that it was hurting, I'd gone to urgent care, and it had stopped hurting by the time I was in the waiting room. And the doctor had no real answers for me other than it was a back spasm. So I'd kind of run with that belief and assumed it was something to do with the back issues that I've had ever since I was in a car accident over a decade ago. Surprise, it wasn't. So that Wednesday night into Thursday morning, I had been up all night long, throwing up and unable to sleep because of the pain. That morning, I ended up calling my parents while literally writhing in severe pain on my bathroom floor, asking if they could take me to the emergency room. Oh, if you're new here, I also have pretty severe anxiety. So after trying everything to calm myself down in the waiting room, doing all these deep breathing exercises, and even dozing off at one point, I finally am called back. And because of how anxious I am, they need to run an EKG to make sure I'm not having a heart attack too. Plus, my dad got sent back into the waiting room because he needed a visitor's pass, and they refused to give him one and let him back in. So I was fully alone for the entire 10 hours that I was in the emergency room. And my dad, amazing as he is, stayed in the waiting room the entire time, mostly reading his Patti Smith book. Mind you, my parents host Christmas, so there was also a lot that needed to be done that basically got put on hold for me. So again, Mom and Dad, if you're watching, thank you. After what felt like hundreds of tests, the doctor finally comes to me and tells me that their best guess is that it's something muscular because none of the tests indicate anything is wrong with me. Then they told me that usually they'd order a CAT scan just to be on the safe side. I don't know what my face looked like, but it must have read, "Order that immediately or I'll cause a scene." Because they did. I think overall, I had to wait 2 hours for that one test. And that is when I found out that I had a kidney stone. And so that awful back pain that I'd been experiencing for months had been kidney stones the whole time. And I was so innocently believing it was just a back spasm. Could you imagine? So I spent Christmas week trying to stay as hydrated as possible and avoid any food or drink that might trigger any kidney pain. That was fun for Christmas. Thankfully, I didn't feel any serious pain the entire time I was staying with my parents, so I really lucked out. My holiday was far from awful though. I also kind of forced my parents into going to the movies with me, so we had a small break from the holiday prep, and we saw Wicked for Good, which I think was my third time seeing it. I really enjoyed it, but I still think that part 1 is my favorite of the two. Plus, getting to spend the time with family was really nice, though I didn't get to see my brother. I also had the following week with Andy, my boyfriend. All things considered, it was a really nice end to the year. Enough yapping about me, though. At this point, I've begun working on the interior floor plan. I'm gonna be honest, I cut out a lot from this stage of the video because I was trying too much, and I just kept going back to the beginning. I did really like the idea of using platforms to get to the main dining space, which would lead out to the patio, which was also on a platform. It just took me a bit of time to figure out how to lay that out and use additional platforms as stairs instead of a full staircase. I wasn't entirely sure at this stage of the build what I'd be doing with the upper floor, so I quickly added in some bathroom stalls to make sure I had dedicated space for bathrooms. Then I headed back downstairs and tried to find the best way to lay out the other required items: a staircase to upstairs, the waiter and host stands, and the chef's kitchen. For a bit, I played around with the idea of the very entrance being where the host stand would be, as well as a bar, but I switched that out for seating. I don't think your Sims ever have to wait long enough for a table in-game, but it's just more realistic to me to have a kind of waiting area in a restaurant. Having that idea sort of designated space for everything else. The staircase would be right in the middle, so it separates the waiting area from the rest of the restaurant, plus it gives added privacy to the main dining room. I do eventually add in some dining space here towards the back though. I had also recently seen someone else share a build where the space underneath the staircase was turned into an aquarium using the new glass wall paint that they added to the game. So I wanted to see if I could do something similar. I swapped out my original stairs for those lit stairs to add in a little bit more lighting and had the glass walls underneath work. This I think helps make the back half of the restaurant to feel not so enclosed and claustrophobic. It makes a lot of sense to have the waiting area feel welcoming from the front, but your only clue that this is a restaurant is from the right side windows, or more obviously, the patio dining space. But this way, the small room in the back works perfectly to sort of hide the kitchen and waiter stand while also opening up two distinct spaces: the raised main dining area and access to the second floor. The aquarium was legitimately so much fun to work on. I wish I could remember the exact creator I saw who made a staircase aquarium first, but it's such a genius idea that I had to attempt it myself. To make it work, I added a basement with a few sized down aquarium objects, and then used the tool mod to raise them up into the first floor. So just the plants and other items that are within those aquarium objects could be seen. After that, it was just a matter of going through debug and adding items to this tank to make it look like an actual aquarium. I found some nice rocks and plants and other items to build it out, and then in live mode, just added the fish to the aquariums and made sure that the fish wouldn't swim outside of my custom tank. I'm also incredibly excited because they just announced that there will be a reveal trailer for the next pack, Royalty and Legacy, tomorrow. So if you follow me on Twitch, I'll be reacting to that live while also playing my Legacy challenge. Unfortunately, this will also be my first stream playing with my Legacy family since I think December 11th, because I was in the emergency room, then Christmas, and then last week I took stream off because I was having more kidney pain. I'm all right though. I did play on New Year's Day, but we were checking out the newest creator kit, and then I spent the majority of the stream giving my Sims makeovers and a new bedroom. So tomorrow is really the first time that I'm diving back into actual gameplay. My poor Legacy family, I miss them. Since it sounds like we're getting a new pack soon, I should mention that I do have a creator code. It's not a discount code for you, though they have temporarily made it one in the past. But whenever you use my code, Teknikolour, at checkout on the EA app while purchasing Sims packs or really most other EA titles, a portion of your sale, instead of all of it going directly to EA, will go to me, which as a full-time creator is way more helpful than you might expect. However, I do think that you should be informed about this recent EA buyout, which is supposed to go into effect this year. It seems like the parties who will be acquiring EA are maybe not as progressive as we're familiar with under EA. So huge aspects of the inclusivity in The Sims 4 that we all know and love, and which make this game what it is, could be rolled back or missing entirely in future updates. As a queer simmer, this is very concerning. But queer representation isn't the only kind of representation in The Sims that could be in danger. I strongly urge you to reach out to The Sims and EA, do your own research, and let them know how you feel about this buyout. This doesn't mean that these fears could be true or even warranted, but it is a big concern for a lot of Simmers right now. So if you're not comfortable supporting EA financially right now, I completely understand. If you'd still like to support my content, which thank you, I appreciate it, an easy way is to just keep watching these videos or follow me over on Twitch and watch my live streams. Right now, we've just started playing Uncharted 2, but do play other games like The Sims 4 and Palia. I think my streams are very much a mixture of cozy and chaotic, but always with a lot of laughs. No pressure, of course, but just thought I'd mention it. Back upstairs, I knew that I wanted to add a sort of party room. This is kind of another dining space that, as long as no other Sims have already reserved it, you can select this table when coming to the restaurant and have this room for a more private party. Maybe you'd like to celebrate your Sim's birthday with just family, or host some other sort of event here. This might be the room for you. For the overall design of it, I wanted it to have a bit more distinction from the rest of the restaurant. So that's why those wall dividers are on the side walls with the lit wallpaper behind them. The jellyfish hanging lamps and the staircase aquarium definitely helped make this restaurant have more of a seafood vibe than I'd have preferred as someone that doesn't eat seafood, but I guess that's kind of fitting for Brindleton Bay. I'm also a big fan of the fitness stuff pack, so I use the dining room furniture from that throughout this build. I think it fits in with the overall look of the building and more modern vibe. Right now, we're mostly just adding wall paint and other details around the build. I also am testing out different lighting options, which pretty much anything you see related to lighting in the aquarium goes away. I also decided to give the staircase a different wall paint to highlight it even more. I think this one is from Enchanted by Nature, and it gives a really interesting vibe to the staircase and aquarium. Setting up the dining areas was unexpectedly frustrating, at least a tiny bit, just because I had less space than I realized. Still, we end up with an entire patio of seating, so I guess that's not terrible. I use the same table from the party room in the main dining area, but then smaller tables around this floor. Down the platform steps, I added a second larger table as well, before heading back upstairs for a few more tables. Overall, there is more than enough dining space for your Sims to choose from when coming to this restaurant, which is nice, since it's a smaller size lot. I will admit that it took me quite a bit of time to decide what smaller tables to pair with a large glass table from Fitness Stuff. Luckily, this small table matches the glass table's base and the chairs, which I used with these smaller tables. So visually, I think it all works together well. Now we've moved on to flooring and some small details throughout to start making this restaurant feel like a finished restaurant. I also made some small color changes to the party room to bring in a bit more of the purple from the stairwell. I also used wood paneling for the majority of the walls, paired with concrete flooring. The wood, I think, helps to warm up the space while the concrete kind of grounds it still. I think since the overall restaurant has more of a colder, modern vibe to it, the wood and the fireplace adds a touch of warmth, putting emphasis on the food and your dining partners. This is Brindleton Bay, so the weather can get a bit cold during the colder seasons. So I added in some of those outdoor heat lamps from Adventure Awaits. I've not used these kind of items much in the game, so I don't know what the heat radius would be, but hopefully this is enough to keep the entire patio warm. I used the exact same dining furniture from the inside out here. In the real world, I feel like that's probably a mistake unless they can cover the patio walls somehow, because they'll be at the wrath of the weather. That's not a real issue in the game though, so enjoy away. At this point, I decided that we still needed a bit more light in here, and I wanted natural light, as well as some opening to the outside on the opposite wall. I don't know if it was a good idea or not, but I added some of the Machino stuff windows on this side to add a little bit more visual interest too. These windows are different from all of the glass windows and doors I've used throughout, so I think it helps to make this side of the building stand out a little bit. And hopefully that's in a good way. I also took the time to add some wall decor around the restaurant and to jazz up the waiting area a bit. I used the new curtain pieces from Adventure Awaits to make a sort of shelf above one of the sofas, and then included a painting with some smaller decor like plants and stuff to fill it out. I think this spot came out really nicely and looks super inviting from the outside. Like, this makes me want to come in and check out the restaurant. Moving on to the exterior, I added a small path to the front door that also acts as a kind of sidewalk in the front. Then I added some of those lit bushes we received from last year's winter event. So if you don't have access to those, I'm sorry. You could swap in any other bushes, and I'm sure it'd work, but I just love the way that these lit bushes look. It adds a touch of whimsy, in my opinion. I wish that there was a way to get these items later on if you missed out on these events for whatever reason. Maybe they'll add some to new events, so you'd at least have the opportunity to unlock them again? I don't know, just an idea. I am also kind of obsessed with those debug planters from Businesses and Hobbies. There's two. Both have various plants in them, but one has a small tree in it. and they're used all around Nordhaven, the world from that pack. I honestly think they work in pretty much any world though, so I've been using them as added decor or highly manicured landscaping to builds just like this one. After that, I just added a few plants and shrubs around, did some terrain paint to make the whole place look more realistic, and then plopped down a small bench in the back. But that, my friends, is the entire speed build. So why don't I open the game and give you a quick overview tour? Okay, so I've popped into the game now, and this is our Ragdoll Refurb restaurant. And I just love the way that this looks from the outside. Like, I love the patio with the little bar there, and just the way that this looks from back here. Like, maybe this was used as an old dock, but now is no longer working, but it's still just kind of inviting. And then, of course, from the front is where you can really kind of see into the restaurant. And this space just seems like it's just screaming, come in. Here's a little overhead shot so you can see this spot right here is that custom fireplace. This, of course, is the patio. And then this is the entrance. You can see the host stand is right here. And then you can go up these stairs. This is where that aquarium is. There is a table back here. And there is access to the waiter stand and then also the kitchen. But up these little steps is the main dining area. And of course, an entrance into the patio. Going upstairs, you can see that the party room is right here that overlooks this covered patio and the rest of Brindleton Bay. And there's actually bathrooms on both sides. And then there's just another big table and then two smaller tables up here with a little balcony space to go out on if you want to. If you enjoyed this build, please drop me a like and then grab it off of the gallery. To add it to your game, you can find it using my EA ID, Teknikolour. If you'd like to see more of my builds and other cozy gaming videos, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss future uploads. If you want even more Sims content, consider dropping me a follow over on Twitch. I livestream my pack-based Legacy Challenge every Thursday, but do play other cozy games throughout the week. Planning on picking up cats and dogs or any other packs? Please use my creator code, Teknikolour, when checking out on the EA app. It's free for you and supports the channel. Plus, my code can now be used on so many other EA titles, not just The Sims. But thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.